the biggest reason why women fail, maybe not even just women, but always fail at eventually like losing that weight and sticking to the gym and sticking to that diet is because they set the bar way too high. And you know, we all have this like ideal picture of like what we want to look like if we're being honest with ourselves. And here's the thing, people don't consider when making these goals, like actually consider the amount of years and the amount of effort in addition to those years that it takes and the consistency of that effort. And so they fail because they put in the work for 2 weeks and then they're exhausted, and then they kind of push through, and then they 4 or 5 weeks and then they're exhausted, and then they eventually give up. And in a matter of like 4 or 5 weeks, 6 weeks, 7 weeks, they have like little to no results. And maybe they do, and maybe they are maybe they're decent results, and maybe they're actually like their standards are just too high. Maybe it's like, oh, at this point maybe I should have lost like 15 pounds or 20 pounds, whatever else, when in reality, like, no, like that's totally fine. Like if you've lost 3 pounds, like that's a win, right? But if you don't have a background in health and fitness, if you don't, if you haven't researched it or anything like that, then you can look in the mirror and see very little change in that amount of time, or you can see like the scale has only gone down like 1-2 pounds or whatever, and it gets you frustrated, and then you just want to throw in the towel. And that's just the scale victories, like the difficulty in sticking to something like a new meal plan or just consistency in the gym. And I think that it's just like, we always think that when we start these things, like we're going to be perfect this time, and this time we're not going to fail. And the truth of it is that sometimes, like, you know what, you end up missing a couple days here and there, and then you just, again, tell yourself, oh, I failed again. And so I was talking to someone yesterday, and I just said, I think we need to set the bar a little lower, because we always have these lofty goals for ourselves. But here's the thing, like, if you can't reach these like high standards that you keep setting for yourself, then what ends up happening is you just lose trust with yourself in the process, and you lose trust over and over and over again, till eventually you get to the point where you don't actually believe that you can do it. And so then you fall into self-acceptance and just the fact that like this is the way it's going to be forever. And so I said, let's lower the bar a little bit so that we can earn trust back with ourselves. And anyways, I think that clicked with her, and so we're gonna do that. And I think that's something that, if you've struggled your whole life with stuff like this, that maybe that should be something that you try too. So, rather than keeping to that perfect meal plan for the next, 6 months or the next 3 months even, start with 2 weeks. Make a promise to yourself that you can stick to that for 2 weeks, and you'll eliminate so much confusion, so much decision fatigue. You'll have these goals that you can reach little by little, and then you can start with giving yourself a little bit of leeway. You can go in there and you can say, okay, like I trust myself now to stick to something for 2 weeks. And you can congratulate yourself at the end of those 2 weeks. And then if you want to go and you want to try it for a third week, and that's okay. But, if you wanted to maybe go and say, okay, I trust myself to do this now. So like, what's the next thing I trust myself with? And if that's maybe something like switching out a meal, I don't want to give myself too much room to fall off. I want to stay, I don't want to be confused. And I want to be able to do this, and I want to be able to, you know, keep the bar low so that I can hit it again. And so try that, you know, week 3, week 4. Okay, I'm going to learn to trust myself to make a decision to swap out, you know, one meal here or there. And then even in fitness, I trust myself to wake up that morning, to go to the gym, and to commit to doing, you know, 10 minutes of walking, and then to maybe walk around the gym just to kind of get familiar with things. And you can try that and commit to doing it 4 times a week, even if you're terrified, even if you have a ton of gym anxiety. And then after that, decide for yourself that you're going to, you know, make a commitment to go, you know, down to a room that you're unfamiliar with, or to pick up a free weight, you know, and to walk across the room, maybe through that crowd of people that intimidate you, you know, and you'll do it one time and then count it a win. And then you can go and do it again and count it a win again. And pretty soon all that anxiety about showing up for yourself at the gym and taking up space is gonna go away. I promise you. So yeah, I think that it's just one of those things, you know, like you gotta just earn trust, like not with anyone else, because you're not doing this for anybody else, you're doing this for yourself. And I think that that's the biggest thing, is like you need to earn trust with yourself so that you can stick to things long term, you know, and don't care about what anyone else says. I know that's easier said than done, but too many people really care about what anyone else says, and you know, like they're not the ones living in your body, you know. So yeah, do it for you, show up for you.